And welcome to another FAQ Monday. I'm your host, Fluff. And if you have a beverage, you better go get one. I mean, no, if you don't have a beverage, you better go get one. Whatever it is that you choose to drink in the mornings, because right now it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm drinking a lovely cup of coffee. Now, maybe for you it's tea or vodka. Either way, I hope you're enjoying your beverage. First question, thoughts on Gibson suing Dean guitars? Yeah, I knew that would come up. It's not as black and white as people are like to make it out to be. The process started under the old management, under Henry, back in, I believe, 2017. That's when the first cease and desist was issued, and then there was another cease and desist, and Dean has not backed down because basically Gibson is asking them to wipe their whole line, and now they are suing them. So this whole thing did start under the old management, so it's not a situation of like the new guys coming into Gibson and being like, who can we sue? It isn't like that. Not that I am defending Gibson's other incredibly dumb actions, but it's not as black and white as everyone thinks it is. Does the V look exactly, the Dean V look exactly like the Gibson V? Yeah, it does. Does the Explorer style Dean look exactly like the Gibson Explorer? Yeah, it sure does. Does the ES style from Luna Guitars, which is owned by Dean, does the Luna ES style look exactly like an ES 335? Yeah, it sure does. And does the Luna or the Dean, I can't remember what it's called, but it looks like an SG. It looks just like an SG. So there is that. However, based on Fender losing a lawsuit a few years ago because they simply waited too long to defend their copyright and their trademark, I don't know if Dean will lose on this one, because Dean has been making half those guitars since 1979. Gibson only just now suddenly cares. The court system will take that into consideration if it even gets that far. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe they'll give some kind of licensing deal or something to Gibson. I don't know. But yeah, so those are the facts. And you know what? It looks terrible, and it's terrible timing because it came out that they were suing Dean about 2 days after the whole Play Authentic Mark Agnesi video and all that stuff. So, it is what it is, but it's definitely going to be interesting going forward. If you could have lunch with one person, living or dead, who would it be and why? Living or dead, the person who comes to my mind first is Dave Grohl, and thank goodness he is still alive, because he just seems like he'd be really fun hang. And any guy that's gonna be in one of the world's biggest rock bands but still has the panache to show up at random metal shows and barbecue for everybody, that's cool, man. Like, he is my type of dude. I really enjoy that kind of character. Also, he's Dave Grohl, and I could pick his brain about all sorts of Nirvana stuff and Foo Fighters stuff. And I don't know, I just think it would be a lot of fun, and I think we would bro down pretty hard. Also, if you took someone historical, like let's say Abraham Lincoln, and if he suddenly popped into the chair across from you at the coffee table, wouldn't he literally be like, where am I? What happened to Gettysburg? I was right in the middle of, I'm like, hey, have some coffee, Abe, let's hang out. And he'd be like, what is coffee? Where am I? Taking him out of his historical context wouldn't make any sense either. Although I don't think that's the spirit of the question. But still, that's where my brain goes. Julius Caesar would be like, oh, what is all this? It's so noisy and busy. Or what are these things moving down the road? Where are horses? That kind of thing. So maybe the conversation wouldn't get that far in the first place. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into it. But yeah, my answer is Dave Grohl, because he is effing cool. You obviously like the RD type guitars, so what are your thoughts on Firebird type guitars? Do they feel pretty much the same? I mean, I wouldn't say they feel pretty much the same. No, not really. The Firebirds are really neck heavy, most of them, historically speaking. The RDs are not. The RDs are very body heavy. Also, things like when you tune, if they have the Steinberger tuners, the ones that are knurled, Those are very difficult to tune, in my experience, when I had my Epiphone Firebird. If you're using heavy gauge strings, because the string works, it's a gearless thing, so it works by pulling the string into the tuner housing, right? It's very, very difficult to tune, and my fingers would be tired by the time I got done tuning. So the Firebirds that I thought were the pinnacle of the Firebird line were the like mid-2000s Firebird Studios with the full-size dual humbucker and the regular Grover tuning keys, the ones that Dave Grohl played in Foo Fighters. I saw them back in like 2005 and I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? Those guitars are the perfect Firebird, in my opinion. Simple, stripped down, rock and roll machines, no binding on the body, 2 humbuckers, you know, all the Gibson goodness. And I would love to find one of those mid-2000s with like wine red or black or something like that. Oof, so good. And I don't think they go for that much money, if you can find them, but they so rarely come up. And I know they've reissued those a few times, but like they usually come with mini humbuckers or P90s, or they're just, or right now they're out, but they have the reverse headstock, which looks ugly. It's, oh man, it's so ugly. But yeah, anyway, that's, yeah, they don't sound the same, but I do like Firebird. So, Offset Brethren, unite. If you had to get your distortion sound from a pedal, which one would you go with? Okay, so, like if I was in a fly rig situation where I had to fly into a date and I had no idea what the backline amp would be, and I would bring a distortion pedal for my distorted tone, there's a lot of good ones out. The Rev G4 is really good. The Friedman OD Deluxe. Honestly, I would probably pick a KSR series. I would put that in my backpack because it feels like an amp, it sounds like an amp, it's not fizzy, and it can do everything I want it to do. And it's a 3-channel preamp distortion pedal. Like, that's bang for the buck right there. That is gonna get you through any potential backline setup, if that's the situation. But if I was going into some kind of a clean amp or something like that, regardless, and I couldn't have a gain channel built into the amp, I would definitely choose KSR series. The pedal is just a masterpiece, and I think anyone who is in that kind of a situation of having to get their dirty tone from a pedal definitely owes it to themselves to check it out. It's just a lovely, lovely piece of kit. What was your first ever pedal board? Okay, my first ever pedal board was a big, long board consisting of, I think it was like 7 Electro-Harmonix pedals. And I had a friend at school, we were like 16, a guy at his church gave him this box full of old Electro-Harmonix pedals. Now, mind you, I had no idea what they were at the time, and none of them worked, which is why his guitar player, buddy, an older guy, his like dad's friend at church, was guitar player on stage for all the songs that the church would play, gave him the pedals, right? Because he played guitar a little bit, but primarily he was a drummer. And none of them made sound, none of them worked. And I was like, well, if you want to get rid of them, let me know, I'll buy them from you. And he was like, okay, that would be pretty cool. I would sell them all to you for $25. And I thought, well, I don't know what's wrong with them, but I'll take that risk, because $25 was quite a bit of money for a 16-year-old, or however old I was. So I take them home, and with the old enclosures for the Electro-Harmonix pedals, you take off the 4 screws and open it up and take the bottom off. And on those old pedals, the 9-volt attachment, the wires for the 9-volt battery, would pull right off of the circuit board, and you could visibly see where they used to be. All I did was borrow my dad's soldering iron and resolder them, and all of them started working again. There was an Electric Mistress, there was a Bad Stone, a Small Stone, a Dr. Q, a Big Muff, a Little Muff, and there was a few more. I don't remember what they were, but they all worked after reattaching the batteries. Go figure. And my dad, I told my dad what I wanted to do. I was like, man, I really love a pedal board, but I can't afford one. So we took an old coffee table and we cut the top out, and we mounted the pedals. And yeah, he made me a custom power supply that had like a 6-way splitter using coax cable as the main like distribution cable. Or it was like a dual core or something. I don't know what it was. but he was a Unix admin at Boeing at the time, so he had access to like really high grade cable, and he basically built me my own homemade version of like what would later be the Voodoo Labs Pedal Power 2. He made one back in the 90s and for my pedal board, and it was awesome. But the pedals were not true bypass, so my guitar sounded like garbage on the clean channel with all them bypass, because not being true bypass, they all sucked the top end right out of the guitar with every pedal. So by the time it gets to the amp, I would have to crank the treble on my on my amp. But it was a great pedal board, and I had a big muff, and it was so, oh man, it was so awesome. I miss that pedal board. But yeah, that was my first pedal board. Best chain coffee? Let's see, I think up until recently, my answer would have been Dunkin' Donuts, because that coffee is incredible. Right now, I am drinking some Krispy Kreme coffee because it was on like some huge mega sale at my local Fred Meyer right by my house. And I thought, I'll give it a shot. And it's really, really good. So I feel guilt. I feel brand guilt not saying Dunkin' Donuts, but currently right now, it's the Krispy Kreme drip because it's just delicious. And I'm talking about like in the form of like a K-cup or beans, or like a bagged beans kind of a thing. Although I haven't seen the Krispy Kreme in the bagged coffee, just the K-cup for Keurig. But I'm gonna have to give it to Krispy Kreme. Maybe it's just because it's new and fresh and different from Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know, but Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kreme. How about that? That's my answer. When I'm on tour and we're on the East Coast where there's lots of Dunkin' Donuts, Dunkies as the locals call it, I definitely prefer a cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee fresh, like when I'm at a Dunkin' Donuts, as opposed to a Krispy Kreme. But at home drip, yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to Krispy Kreme. What software do you use for video editing? So for a few years, I bounced back and forth between Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere. I started out on Final Cut Pro 7 back in the day. 6? Might have been 6. And I went to Premiere like 6 years ago, and I've been there ever since. However, in the last 6 months, I have completely ditched my Adobe Cloud and Adobe Premiere as a video editor for a few reasons, but chief among them is Premiere became so unreliable and so unpredictable. It would render, when I would render out my videos, the audio would slowly drift, even though it wasn't like that in the project. I couldn't use secondaries, color correction, without it crashing. My footage would look different sometimes, depending on what kind of footage I would import, and it wouldn't apply LUTs. All sorts of problems. There was a while where it wouldn't play. I couldn't play back video, which is pretty crucial in a video editor. Out of frustration for one particular video to get it done, I switched over to Final Cut Pro and realized they'd fixed everything that I hated about it many years ago. And I've been there ever since, so I totally switched back to Final Cut Pro. As a byproduct of that, that is really the reason that I'm able to create so many videos and kick out so many videos as fast as I can, because Final Cut Pro, to edit the same video that I would in Premiere, it takes me about half the time, and that's no exaggeration. I can fly in Final Cut Pro, and it's faster. And if it helps my productivity, then I will use it, and that's why I'm back in Final Cut Pro, and no plans to leave anytime soon. DaVinci Resolve is really cool too. I played around with that a little bit, but yeah, I'm just gonna stick with Final Cut Pro and just go with what works best for me. And now, Fluff reads a tweet. Where did Captain Hook go to replace his hook? The secondhand store. That's a dad joke. My suggestion to you this week is to check out the new Korn song, You'll Never Find Me. This is vintage Korn. It sounds vintage and modern at the same time. This is really a return to form for Korn. I love this song. It's amazing, and you should definitely check it out if you like heavy music of any kind. All applicable links down below in the description. You've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.